Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom or Tom. How's it going?
Tony, there are always times that people are so jealous of our jobs. And it's like, you get to go to all the games, home and away. You get to go to the bowl games. Wow. I would do anything to have your job. Today, Tony, not one of these days. Friends, guess what we got to do today? We got to watch the 2024 Ohio State-Michigan game for the second time. Jealous? Yeah, you're jealous.
You know, when I was like a student or just a regular Joe and my team would lose, like I would want nothing to do with hearing about it, talking about it. I would certainly never watch a loss again. And, like sports radio, whatever, like there are times in school, like if the Bears lost, I'm not going to school on Monday. And so it's like to have like people who seek out the, who are, God bless the message boarders. I'm been one of them forever, but like the day after a loss, a couple days after a loss, like the last thing I ever wanted to do was go talk about it or go revisit it. Or, like I need to go like, what's on television that isn't sports? Give me something. Do I have a book in the house? No, not a textbook. No, not a medical book. Just any kind of anything. Sports is not what I want. And so, yeah, this is one where we do it every week. And it's always interesting to get the television perspective because you're down on the field. I'm up in the press box. We can only see so much. And then watching this one, I don't know that we learned anything new because there was only so much that happened in this game because it was like a 70s, 90s Ohio State, Michigan game where it's just, fist to face to, whatever, knee to groin type of thing.
Quite literally at the end, yes.
Yeah. And so there's really, and in this play, it's like, well, this drive happened and nothing happened, and this drive happened and nothing happened. So only so much really happened in this game. So I'm interested to hear what you found of use and of newness or reestablishment or what you learned from this one.
So I think my biggest thing was, okay, it felt like they were way too conservative and they were, they didn't throw the ball enough and they had opportunities to seize control of the game and they didn't do it. I guess let's just start with the first drive. The first drive, Ohio State goes pass for 9 yards, pass for 9 yards, or pass for 8 yards, run for 0 yards, pass for 8 yards, pass for 13 yards, pass for a 15-yard pass interference play. At this point, your passes have been 9, 8, 8, 13, and 15. Your run has been 0. Tony, what are your next two play calls? If you answered run and run, congratulations. You're in 3rd and 5 for some reason, and then you have to go throw an incomplete pass on 3rd and 5 and kick a field goal on the opening drive. I think why did they run the ball so much? Why did they not throw the ball to Jeremiah Smith more? Why did they not, all the things that people were asking. I think there are multiple answers for that. But on the first drive, it just felt like, how there are some coaches that are really comfortable just spamming stuff until the opponent stops it? Like, I always think of Lane Kiffin as doing it. Like, Lane Kiffin will run, not even just like keep throwing the ball. It'll be like, I'm going to run the same play 3 times in a row, and you're not going to stop it. If you stop it, then I'll do something else. But I don't really feel the need to do anything. It's like, yeah, you got into the red zone. Guess what? Keep throwing. You have better wide receivers than they do corners. Why are you running the ball? That was kind of the start of everything for Ohio State. I don't know if that was, it felt a little bit like the mentality at the start of the game was, get the ball down there and then listen, just make sure you get points because Michigan's not going to get many points today. So all you got to do is get some points, get a lead, and then, you kind of go from there. I think that's it. Ryan Day after the game, was almost non-responsive. He was like 2.5 steps above comatose during the post-game press conference. So, and then we didn't get a chance to talk to Chip Kelly. We're not going to get a chance to talk to Ryan Day again until Wednesday when it'll be early signing day. So, I'm sure he'll be thrilled to be answering Michigan questions then, but no one's answered the Michigan question. So here we are. And so, we're all sort of psychoanalyzing, and you can do the, well, Ryan Day wants to show Michigan that they're big and tough, and so that's why they were going to run the ball, because soft teams pass the ball in the red zone. So you can have that conversation. You can have the they wanted to play it safe and make sure they got points conversation. Like there's a bunch of different stuff, but it just watching that live, and I thought, well, maybe it'll feel differently watching it on TV, sort of getting a bigger picture. It's like, no, they had a thing that was working and was consistently working. I'm going to read those numbers to you again. 9, 8, 8, 13, 15. Did you hear a 0 in there anywhere? Did you hear a 2 in there anywhere? Did you hear a 5 in there anywhere? Like, just keep doing the thing that's working until it stops working. That's, I don't want to oversimplify things, but it feels like that would have been a good choice.
There's just something about some coaches where they simply have to run the ball at some point. Their bodies, in Jurassic Park, like they bioengineered the dinosaurs to need lysine, and they couldn't live without it. And so that's why they could never leave the island. But life finds a way, and they didn't turn out need it. But Ryan Day and coaches like him, they need to run that ball randomly. And I think there's some irony in us talking about Ryan Day not throwing the ball enough, because it used to be you're not running it enough. But when you look at even in the 2-minute drill, they ran the ball. Why? Because it's like, well, everybody's going to run the drill. We got to just see if we can get what we can get. Yes, we know the time is running out, but this is what you do. This is coaching 101. It's like, well, shouldn't you be at graduate level by now? Shouldn't you be coaching 567? Shouldn't you be teaching the class? So then, I charted all of the first down plays in the game for Ohio State on offense. And in the first quarter, they ran the ball twice and they threw the ball twice. The 2 first down runs went for 0 yards each. First down pass went for 9. That was to start the game. Then they had the 15-yard pass interference. So a pretty good 24 yards on 2 first down passes, no yards on 2 first down rushes. But over the course of the game, they had 52 yards rushing on 14 first down rushes. 32 of those yards were the speed option, and a run up the middle for Quinshon Judkins for 17 yards when Mason Graham was not in the game. Other than that, their first down rushes, here are their first down rushes all game long. 0, 0, 0, 15 was the speed option, which we never saw again. -1, 2, 2, 1, 3, 17, 3, 5, 0, 5. And then they threw the ball 11 times and picked up 81 yards, including the 15-yard pass interference. So much more effective throwing the ball. And yeah, we talked about all week about how you run to throw, or throw to run, throw the ball and open up the running game. And they threw the ball twice before they decided they needed to run for 0 yards. And so, yeah, I'm with you. Just not that Will Howard was gangbusters or anything like that, but you look at the production, it was there. There was enough there to score, I don't know, 16, 17 points if you don't just continue to run into a brick wall because you think you have to.
Yeah, their run scores sound like a baseball line score. Their passing plays sound like a toll-free phone number. Like, one of these things is the one with the numbers that are bigger. You should do that more. I don't want to oversimplify things, but also, like, the first half, it felt like they got into rhythms when they were passing. I mean, they got into a rhythm on the first drive. They got into a rhythm on that 2-minute drill towards the end of the first half. When you pick up that first down, and then you just go boom, 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 right down the field. In the second half, it got really disjointed. And I think part of that was probably, I don't think Will Howard was 100%. It's watching that game again. I don't think Will Howard was 100%. And it just felt like he was just a little bit off. And there were guys who were open, and he missed, the last drive of the game was really bad. The last drive of the game, it was a bunch of not particularly catchable passes, but there was a bunch of times when stuff was there, and if you just throw the ball on first down every once in a while, like, mix it up, keep them honest. It just, running on first down, it just never worked, and it was like, well, they'll never see it coming again. We've done it 4 times in a row. They'll never see us. It was mind-boggling. And again, you can assign whatever motive to it you want to. I just, going into the game, we talked about the interior of the offensive line for Ohio State against the interior of the defensive line for Michigan is going to be a bad matchup. You are not going to be able to run the ball inside. You're not going to be able to run the ball between the tackles. And they mixed it up a little bit, but Michigan, the defensive line controlled things inside so well that Michigan was able to just sort of spill stuff out to the sideline, a lot of the outside stuff, where, a lot of the effective runs were like there was a 4th and 1 where I think it was when Devin Brown was in, but after Howard got hurt, and they got in the kind of tush-push formation, but instead of doing the tush-push to Devin Brown, they handed it to Judkins on a quick little sweep. But Michigan was all sucked inside because they were expecting the quarterback sneak there. So if you had them, if you catch them off balance, that's one thing. But if they're kind of in a standard defense and their defensive line's controlling the inside, and they have guys kind of, no one's playing super deep because you're running the ball on first down every time, there's not a lot of room there to get anything done. And they got very, very predictable. They got very, very run, pass at times. I think a lot of that also, in addition, the first drive, they just got away from what was working. I think there was also, Tony, you look at it, a lot of this game to me screams that the game plan was just don't make a mistake. And Michigan, if you don't make a mistake, Michigan can't beat you. And, we've said that all year. If you don't give up turn the short run into a long run, if you don't turn the ball over deep in your own end or throw a pick six, great. Like, it's very hard for Michigan to score points. Well, they had one play at the very end where they missed the tackle. They had the interception deep in their own end that handed Michigan a touchdown. They had a short punt that handed Michigan a field goal. But they were so terrified of making the mistake that they had possessions where they essentially punted the possession because it was like, well, you're deep in your own end and we don't want to throw another interception. So you're going to run, pass when Caleb Downs loses a punt in the sun, or when, Travion Henderson, I think they did run, pass on the first drive of the third quarter after Henderson kind of botched the opening kickoff of the third quarter. Anytime they were backed up, and they were backed up a decent amount on those 2 drives, on the drive after the 4th down stop, it felt like it was always run, pass. And I think at least 2 of those didn't go anywhere, and they ended up punting the ball right back. And then you're constantly losing the field position battle. And Michigan's perfectly happy to just run the ball, chew the clock, punt it back to you, and let you go run, pass, and punt it right back to them.
When Ohio State gets that 4th down stop, the goal line stop, essentially a goal line stop, and then they get the ball back at the 2, and they did the run, pass. There was only so many places that the ball was going to go on the interception. And this was pre-hit, pre-injury Will Howard. Not a good throw. There were some bad throws while he was perfectly healthy and perfectly normal. So when you see bad throws later on, it's like, well, I'd like to attribute that to being hurt, but what about the other throws? And the out route that Amir Hall jumped, I mean, there are only so many places that ball was going to go, and you saw it get jumped, and then that turned into a touchdown for Michigan, and that just continued the loss of field position for Ohio State. I think the run pass of the to go to the first kick in the third quarter, at least Ohio State moves the ball out, and they're moving the ball, and they get to the 3rd and 7 from Michigan's 38, and it's just a bad pass from Will Howard, and misses. It's behind Emeka Egbuka, and almost turns into an interception. But this was not the 75% Will Howard, 75 completion percentage Will Howard. If it had been, then this is a much different score overall. But the accuracy, and that was post hit, yeah. And I think one of the things that was the 2-minute drill happens after he gets hit. And I'm with you though, like, even if you watch the sideline, he after he throws that touchdown pass and he comes off the sideline, and like Jack Sawyer hits him in the helmet, and then you just see him like he's like kind of holding his head, and you're like, is that normal? Is that And again, these are doctors that say he's good to go, and he's saying he's good to go. So I'm not saying anything that he shouldn't have been in there, but we do see players play when they're less than 100%. And Will Howard certainly, he was good enough to be out there, and he was also good enough to continue running because he did run the ball some more. But you do wonder how much he was impacted by that, but also he wasn't fantastic before that either. So I don't want to ascribe too much to the post-hit because the pre-hit, he had also missed some passes.
They also continued running him, as you said, after he had the injury in the first half. There was one on the opening drive of the second half. It was 1st and 10, and it looked like a read play, and I think it was Judkins maybe was taking it outside, and Howard kept it and went up the middle between the tackle and took another hit to the head on, by keeping it. And it wasn't like it was a huge play, it was a huge gain. It wasn't like it was, it was 1st and 10. Like if you're worried about his health, well, you don't have to call that. It's 1st and 10. There's lots of stuff you can do. You could even throw the ball on 1st down, Tony. I mean, I don't want to go crazy, but I don't know that I would have been running him between the tackles if you're concerned about like, hey, he might be a little bit banged up. There was another one that it just felt like they got out of whack. And this was actually the drive where Howard got hurt. The drive starts with that speed option play. This was right after the first interception. I think the first interception. They take the speed option for 15 yards. Then they go no huddle, throw pass to Emeka Ibuka for 18 yards. Throw pass to Jeremiah Smith for 5 yards. That was the one where he got tackled out of bounds, and there was kind of like that scuffle, which if you're officiating a rivalry game and you're worried about things getting chippy, like a guy getting tackled 4 yards out of bounds, you could throw a flag on that, and you wouldn't get sent to prison for it. Again, that's not everyone's going to go, these two all written. This is just like, hey, if you want a game where things get chippy and then you have a fight on the field after the game, that's a tremendous way to maybe not let that happen. But there was a fight, there was a scuffle. They did offsiding personal fouls. So then a couple more short runs after that set up 4th and 1. That was the one where Quinshon Judkins goes outside, big run down to the 23. Then at that point, Howard comes back in. That was after he had that injury. So, and then Howard comes back in. It's 1st and 10 at the 23. Quinshon Judkins runs for a loss of 1. They had a Howard ran for 5, and there was a penalty, offside penalty. So then they took that. So it's 2nd and 6. Quinshon Judkins runs for a loss of 1, and then an incomplete pass to Carnell Tate, and then a missed field goal. And it was just like everything kind of just got derailed there. And it was, I think they didn't. Maybe they didn't trust him to throw the ball there after coming back in. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they just thought, well, hey, you really want to run the ball here. But 3 runs there, which ended up getting. Two runs for a loss of 1, and then 1 run that ended up getting kind of negated by the penalty, and then a throw that was not a great throw by any means, and then you miss a field goal, and it was like, man, there were times you were watching this and you're like, I know they don't score on this drive, but how did they screw this up? There were a bunch of times that you're watching, you're like, they got to get a touchdown on this drive right there, going right down the field. And it's like, I know they didn't do that, but how did this go off the rails? And this one went off the rails the same way that the opening drive went off the rails, which is you're moving the ball down the field, and then all of a sudden the run stops working when you get into the red zone, and then you're settling for a field goal attempt.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. You're watching this. I remember this game. I just saw it. And
I was there. I know. Yeah.
Why are there only 10 points scored on offense in this game? And really, I've focused more on the offense in the rewatch just because, to me, that was the biggest issue. And even some of the stuff where, the field corner for Michigan, whichever one it would be like 10 yards off the line of scrimmage, away from the receiver, where they could have been quick checks to just get that ball to that guy, or design some stuff for that, because it was routine. They knew he was going to be there. And then they would also bail as well. So the boundary corner would bail, and that would lead to some easy yards. And it just, so much of this game was making it harder for Ohio State than it needed to be. And that's Ohio State making it harder. You've already got Michigan making it hard enough. And credit to Makari Page, who I thought he was an area I said they could attack. And you saw on the second interception, the option route that Emeka Egbuka ran, he got open, but it was just a bad throw by Will Howard. And it was about 2 yards away from where it needed to be to Emeka's, I guess, to the left towards the sideline. And Emeka was already breaking open and had broken open, was open, and Will threw it to the defender instead. And these are just little things that shouldn't be happening. That even with 3rd and 7 throw that Carnell Tate had to go off of his hands, it looked live like he just dropped it, and then you watch replay, and it's like I don't know that the throw ever quite got to him. It was 3rd and 7, and Michigan was leading 7-3, and that was, I think that led to maybe a missed field goal as well. But they're just little a lot of 3rd and 7s. It seemed like as I'm checking my notes and going through the box score and the play chart, and it was just one little catch here, or just this throw was just a yard too far, a yard too off, and that's all it took. And then to say, well, that's all it took. There were 8 different plays that you could change the outcome of that play, but the game is still lost for Ohio State because there were just a lot of bad plays, a lot of bad things for Ohio State. And okay, change one field goal. Does that mean Ohio State wins? No. Change Caleb Downs picking up that punt, that 68-yarder. Does that change that? Maybe. That might be the biggest play. Mm-hmm. That or the Travion Henderson thing of the kickoff. But even then, you move the ball out to the 38. So, I can only put so much on that, but that was also a bad play. And that was one where Travion Henderson kickoff return to start the third quarter. And we talked about it immediately after the game. That was when I said there are 4 things on special teams that cost them the game, and I still stand by that, even though there are other things that could. But if you change these 4 things, and that's the 2 field goals, and then the punt return for Caleb Downs, the 68-yard punt that I think you said he lost it in the sun. And it kind of, I didn't think that watching it live, but watching it on television, it looked like there was maybe some of that getting lost in the sun. And so bounces at the 20, lands at the 6. If he catches it at the 20, he can get it to the 30 or so if not more. And then same with Travion Henderson. You knew that kickoff was going to be short, and he just stood and watched it bounce. And you can watch a punt bounce. That's fine. You cannot watch a kickoff bounce. If you're watching a kickoff bounce, you better know exactly where it's going, and you don't. And once you let that kickoff bounce, now it's anybody's ball. So that was a mistake on his part. For one, not getting up there in time, knowing it's going to be short, not understanding that it's going to be short, and then also to let it hit. And I'm sorry I've talked so long, but I just had some things I wanted to say.
Yeah, there's plenty to talk about with this game, no question. And, the funny thing is, Michigan almost had their own version of the kickoff debacle on the opening kickoff where Jordan Marshall is standing at the goal line, and it just looks like he forgets where he is for something. And it's like he's standing on the goal line and he lets it bounce in front of him. And then it was kind of like, oh, crap. Oh, that's me. Sorry, my bad. And, they ended up getting stuck back in the same kind of bad field position. It happened to both teams. Going for Michigan, it was going with the wind, I think. The other way, it was going against the wind. But yeah, there were some real special teams. It was a little bit of a special team circus on Saturday for both teams. I don't want to keep bludgeoning this run pass thing, but if we talk the Quinshon Judkins 17-yard run to the Michigan 30, that was kind of like mid to late third quarter. They had the ball twice this is another one, like hit the ball twice with first downs in the red zone in the third quarter, twice, and they got 0 points out of it. Like that's like you almost have to be trying to not score with getting 2 first downs in the red zone with the wind and not be able to score. Quinshon Judkins hits a 17-yard run to the Michigan 30. Then, of course, they go run pass. They actually convert this one to get 1st and 10 to the 19. Then they go run pass again, and it was like third and I don't know, 5, 7, something like that, 3rd and 7, and they throw an interception. And then Caleb Downs gets an interception right back, ball at the Michigan 16. this is the one where, again, like, he picks that ball off, and I'm sitting there going, well, obviously they're going to punch this in, and then they've got the game. And Tony, what time is it? Tony, is it run, pass? No, not quite. It is run, throwback to G. Scott, which is like, at this point, like, how many times have we seen the tight end or, slot guy coming back across the formation? We've seen that a million times. That's not fooling anyone at this point. It did not fool anyone in this case. And then they run the biggest give up draw to Travion Henderson on 3rd and 10. And it's like, well, certainly you're not going to miss 2 field goals in a game and then miss another field goal. And it was like, you could just sort of feel the pucker. I don't know. It was just, they would get down in the red zone and it's like, well, we have to get points here. Whatever we do, we have to get points. So don't screw this up. Whatever you do, don't screw this up. And then you'd tighten up the play calling, and you have guys out there who you can throw the ball to. Do you know the last pass that was thrown to Jeremiah Smith? Do you know what time was on the clock? The last time they threw a pass to Jeremiah Smith in the game?
Well, tell me.
11:04 in the 3rd quarter. The score at that point is 10-10. They have the ball 2nd and 10 on the Michigan 41. They throw a 3-yard pass to Jeremiah Smith. He does not get another pass targeted to him all game. He had, again, in the first half, 4 catches for 32 yards and a touchdown. Also, 2 penalties for 30 yards. So and there was 1 incompletion. So you threw the ball to him 7 times, and you got 62 yards. Like, that's 7 yards of play. That's 7 yards of play. Are you running the ball for 7 yards of play? No. Well, should you consider throwing the ball his way at least once in the last 24 minutes of the game? I would have given that some thought, certainly. And I know you can't just run the Jeremiah Smith do something cool play every time, but it wasn't like Michigan was, constantly like throw one up. Running the ball is doing nothing. You can't settle for your field goal kicker is missing field goals. You can't just settle. You can't play conservatively and try and win the game 13-10. Like, do something. Like, it's the meme of the guy poking the thing with the stick. Like, do something. Like, try. You have the best wide receiver core in the country. Michigan's best corner is out. Do something. Like, and if Will Howard can't throw the ball, bring in a different quarterback. You have other quarterbacks. If you don't trust Will Howard to throw the ball, bring in a different quarterback.
The Jeremiah Smith touchdown, I thought he was fortunate not to be flagged for offensive pass interference. He learned from the Oregon game not to extend your arms. He just ran through the defender. It's like, hey, I'm trying to run my route. If you get run over, Zeke Berry, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it goes. Do that more, Hey, just run through your corner and we'll throw you the ball. And to go essentially 2 quarters without a target for your best offensive weapon, I mean, that's a choice as well. And you're not designing anything for him. You're not focused on him. You're not trying to find mismatches. And we talked all week about the mismatches for Ohio State's offense. It's going to be outside. It's going to be out wide with the receivers and the DBs. And you were on the field, Tom. You know how windy it was down there. But they were throwing the ball effectively short for the most part. And so to think that effectiveness wouldn't be there. Like, they could have done what they did in the first half throughout the rest of the game, but they clearly didn't feel that they could. And there was definitely some conservative play calling when you're backed up or when you're just looking for that field goal. We just need that field goal, so let's run the draw. That's a give up play, essentially. We don't care about a first down. We don't care about a touchdown here. We just want to settle for a 3. And we know that when Ryan Day's history, when he has settled for 3, it has not gone well.
No, I go back to the 2019 Fiesta Bowl where he's punting the ball in plus territory, and it's like, well, just, punt and play field position. And, you settled for a field goal there in a real give up play. They had a 4th and 7 at the plus 38, and they punted there. It was shockingly, Tony, run pass. This was after the 4th and 1. They got a 4th and 1 stop. I think. Sorry, I'm mixing things up, but they ended up with a punt at the 4th and 7 on the +38. They punted on 4th and 1 in their own territory. And that was after the Jack Sawyer interception. And, Will Howard scrambles for 4 yards on 3rd and 5. They punt on 4th and 1. And you don't have to go for it on 4th and 1 in your own territory if you feel like, boy, this would be a big disadvantage. Frankly, looking back, like they would have been better off going for it there. And if you don't get it, then Michigan, scores and it's a little quicker and you have more time. But either way, if you don't want to go for it on 4th and 1 at your own 20, whatever it is, that's fine. If you don't want to go for it on 4th and 7 at your +38, like, okay, that's fine. If you want to run a draw on 3rd and 10 and settle for a field goal and not really try to score a touchdown, that's fine. But at some point, you have to take a chance on something. You can't just constantly, we'll punt and we'll play for another day. We'll play it safe. And like, at some point you have to try, like you have to be a little aggressive at some point. And it was kind of always, everything all game just felt like, well, they're obviously not going to be able to score. So we just have to, we're going to play it safe here. I promise. I swear you guys, we're going to be more aggressive next time. But, the problem is you don't get that many chances with this kind of game. They only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 drives all game. And you had you're kicking you've basically given up on the one where you get the ball deep and it's like, well, we got to go run pass because we don't trust ourselves there. So, okay, there's one. And then you got to, it's 4th and 7. It's at the +38, but okay, we're not going to do this one. Okay, we'll live to fight another day. Okay, it's 4th and 1. Well, I don't want to go for 4th and run here. It's too deep. Okay. Well, and now it's 3rd and 10. We're just going to run a draw because we want to kick a field goal. Okay. And it's like, that was 40% of your drives right there. At some point you have to kind of, you can't just like, I'm just going to keep folding and eventually I'm going to get dealt a royal flush. Like, I don't know, maybe, but maybe not. Like at some point you might have to push some chips in. And it was just kind of like, no, this isn't the right time. No, this isn't the right time. And then guess what? They ran out of time.
I'm not advocating for Ryan Day or any coach to go for it on 4th and 1, your own 21 in a tie game with 6 minutes to go. It's like, I understand punting that.
Sure.
But you do also know that this punt that is coming, you do not have a booming punter. So you're going to you're going to give the ball back to Michigan 20 yards from field goal range with their guy. Mm-hmm. So I do think there's also some, you can also just pick up the first down. You can also try to pick up the first down. And if you try, you might just get it. So once you punt that back, you are essentially saying, we're going to give you 3 points. So if you're going to give them 3 points, maybe do it anyway. If go for the 4th down. And again, they said they would talk about it. I think so much of this game just came down to, you're saying do something creative. They just never had the field position they wanted to do that. They could never pull the trigger because they were just a little bit too backed up.
And that's fine. And you just, at some point you have to get a little out of your comfort zone. And they wanted to not, it was like, well, it's not the right time. It's never the right time to do it. And, going for it on that 4th and 1, you got to remember the context around, not only are they 20, you're going to punt it back and they're going to be 20 yards from field goal range. Your defense just gave up a 15-play, 77-yard drive for 9:10 off the clock. And it ended with Jack Sawyer making the play of his career at the goal line and saving the day. And your defense at that point, you got to figure they're pretty tired. I mean, they haven't been out there a ton because they've been doing an incredible job, but they were just out there for 9 minutes of game clock, 15 plays, and you're going to punt it back, and Michigan's going to start at their own 40-yard line, and it's tie game with 6:13 left. Like, okay, if you don't want to go for it there, that's fine, but you have to go for it at some point. You can't just play it conservative and try and win it 10-10. Like, that doesn't work. You're going to have to score points at some point, and just wait for Michigan to make a mistake. Like, they did that. They made the mistake, and then Ohio State didn't convert. And it's like, okay, you're going to have to do something at some point. And it just kind of never happened. And then they punt it. Michigan gets the ball back. They run it down to 45 seconds because of the one. I mean, really, watching through, there was one play where Khalil Mullings just ran into the back of the offensive line basically all day long. And there was one play where it was like Ty Hamilton, Jack Sawyer were there and they had him, but he broke free and someone had come kind of just off the edge just a little bit. If that doesn't happen, that one play, it was 3rd and 6. That got them into field goal range, let them run the clock down to about 45 seconds. If they get him down on the ground there, Michigan is going to have to punt it back from midfield with like 2:40 or so left. But because you've played it so close to the vest the entire game, now it's 2:40 left, and one missed tackle cost you the game. Like, this is a guy who's been talking all year about leaving no doubt, and it's like, well, maybe we can win this 10-10. Like, no, that's not, no.
You know, I mentioned at the start, this is like a 70s or 90s Michigan game because of just the score. But then also when you leave a game up to one play, it's very Jim Tressel 2003, 2004, 2005, 8. Like, that's also a Jim Tressel thing where you're playing things close to the vest. And then it just takes one play. And I always go back to Chris Gale slipping against Lee Evans in 2003. And that was it. And that's what happens. And when you don't want to take any chances because of the two things that can go bad and the one thing that can go right, you ignore the stuff that can go right throughout the game. And then you end up losing a 13-10 game that you never, ever should have lost. But, as I said after the game, and I'll wrap up with this and I'll leave it to you, it just became sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy in many, many ways. But you got anything else?
I just want to, like, we've been so focused on the offense and what went wrong there. We should shout the defense out a little bit. Like, Caleb Downs played an amazing game. I mean, the 4th and 1 stuff on Khalil Mullings at the 3 on, one of the first quarter drives. That was an incredible play. That was, who was was it Shazier who stopped the Wisconsin running back at the goal line, like met him in midair? Yeah, that was very reminiscent of that. Khalil Mullings is not a little dude. Khalil Mullings is not an easy guy to stop, and Caleb Downs just stopped him dead in midair. That was an impressive play. Downs made a really nice play to get Donovan Edwards down on like a little, pitch sweep thing on like a 3rd down. The defense was so good all day. The defense deserved a lot better than they got.
I would agree with that. I will also, Jack Sawyer made a play that should have lived forever in Ohio State history with the interception, and it just becomes a sad footnote in this rivalry. If you want to here's a little bit of a sour grape, Tom. They should have called a pass interference on the first drive on 3rd and 5. Emeka Ibuka got held on 3rd down, led to a field goal. Should have been a 1st and goal. I'm just saying, could have changed the entire outcome of the game. But so there you go. I'll throw that in there, and that way everybody can just say, "Oh, look at you whining." No, I'm just saying, like, that was just one other thing that I noticed, and I noticed that during the game as well. And I did also say that Jeremiah Smith is lucky that he didn't get flagged. So
there you go. Even Steven. There you go.
Even Steven.
The other thing that I noticed that I couldn't figure out it seemed after the game, like the little on-field skirmish thing had sort of calmed down, and all of a sudden it flared up again. And I didn't see at the time why, because there's a million things going on, and I'm obviously at ground level 10 feet from it. There was, like, everything had been sort of, like, the Ohio State and Michigan sides had been sort of separated. Everything was kind of settling down. And then I couldn't see the number on the TV broadcast. It might have been 0, which would have been Josiah Stewart, I think, or 8 or something. There was a single digit number, Michigan guy, who kind of goes around the end and then carries the Michigan flag, kind of like running right through the middle of the Ohio State. And that just flared everything back up. And it's like, I know the narrative after the game in the Michigan interview room was, well, you got to learn to lose with class. And like, shockingly, Tony, I haven't even read. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that for the 4th consecutive post-game Michigan skirmish that the poor Michigan did nothing wrong on, just like the Michigan State tunnel thing, just like the, it's never, it's always the Visigoths from, the hinterlands and not the brave and noble, poet laureates from Ann Arbor. But, like, this was a mutual thing. There's a reason both teams got fined for this thing. This was not, like a one team did this and, one team was, just trying to take their best girl, Tony, for a malted after the game. And then they got jumped by Biff and his car full of manure. And it's like, well, there might be a little more nuance to the situation than that.
I heard they took the flag to midfield to ask how to get away from midfield.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
where is some turf unrelated to your fine Institute of Higher Learning that we could put this flag into in a respectful celebration of our triumph in this excellent contest of sport and, Tony, sportsmanship?
Where might we find an exit? If you could point us in that direction, that would be stupendous. So there you go. Ohio State still loses to Michigan 13-10. Breaking.
Again? Tony, what are the odds?
I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but that's going to do it. If you'd love to hit the thumbs up on the YouTube, we would appreciate that. And of course, 5-star rating and review on all of your podcast platforms of choice. We, the regular season is over. We're going to be doing our live show Tuesday night for the college football playoff rankings reveal. A pretty important situation this coming week, and I'll jump on the teleconference and come back with everything that the good folks there at Ward Manual has to say. I'm sure it'll be fantastic for all involved, and we'll find out what they think of Ohio State and what they think of Indiana and all of these other Tennessee and all the other SEC teams in there. So we'll get a bit of an idea there. And of course, you can always find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Been a busy day on the message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus there today and yesterday. Bunch of information coming in. And so we're posting that there, talking about it all day long. So find us there. First month, just $4.99. So that will do it. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.